Thank you for your introduction. My title is What Can We Catch or Understand from the Changes in the Soundscape After Fukushima Nuclear Accident? First of all, I would like you to listen to three sounds. Second sound. And finally, the third. I would like to explain the situation and where I took it. First one was taken in a place called Kotori no Mori on May 1st, 2011. Second sound was taken in a Shinhama Park, again on May 1st, the same day, 2011. And finally, the third sound was taken in a place called Shinobuyama, again on the same day, May 1st, 2001. 2001, actually. 2011, sorry. What did you understand from these sounds? You thought about nature, perhaps? What did you hear? What didn't you hear? And what can you understand or catch from these sounds? But in order for you to answer these questions, please listen to three more sounds. First sample, well, maybe I should call it fourth sample. The fifth sound. And finally, the sixth. These sounds actually were taken in exactly the same place as the three previous sounds, but were taken in a different timing, May 2nd, 2015. Earlier, I took it on May 1st, 2011, and the last three sounds were taken on May 2nd, 2015. It was during the Golden Week holiday time in Japan. So again, in same places. What did you hear compared to the earlier sounds? Maybe you noticed the people's voices in Shinhama Park and Shinobuyama, but in Kotori no Mori, the fourth sample, you didn't hear anyone, no human being. That's what I wanted to talk about today. And what didn't you hear? Well, on the second and the third, you heard the children's voices, but earlier you didn't. And these are the major changes from the first three. Well, what do you catch or what do you understand from these? That's the question I want to ask. I am an expert in soundscape, not just physical aspect of sound, but how the perception of people or the meaning of sound in a society. That is what I study about. That's my field of study that I have been doing for many times. And when the March 11th accident occurred, the first thing that came to my mind of what I could do is I wanted to take and record the soundscape of how Fukushima will be changing.
May 1st, 2011, the first sound you heard, that's when I started recording the sound. From there, in lots of locations in Fukushima, I regularly recorded the sound, and then a few days after, I released those sound on website, and that's also available in English. So if you're interested, please come visit my website so that you get to listen to all different sounds. So, soundscape, what is this? Simply put, it is the world of the sounds that we hear in daily life. Academic definition: an environment of sound, sonic environment with emphasis on the way it is perceived and understood by the individual or by a society. It thus depends on the relationship between the individual and any such environment. That's the definition given from an academic perspective. It started off with this soundscape study is considered as a transdisciplinary field of science, social, and science and arts. And there is a Canadian composer who started call this a soundscape. Some people from literature side, some people are from the science side, and all these people are studying about soundscape. And the goal of soundscape study is to really understand the sound environment, the quality of the sound environment. We want to look at this from social perspective, psychological perspective, and also from an aesthetic perspective. We want to improve the quality of the sound. And also we want to improve sound environment to the level that it is harmonized with and never destroy human health and welfare. And the important keyword here is health. Now, simple question to you. I want you to raise hands. Are you healthy? Could you raise your hand if you think you're healthy? Full of healthy people. It's a relief. Next question is the biggest question I want to ask you. If you think you are healthy, why do you think you're healthy? Or, for those of you who didn't say healthy, why not healthy? What's the reason you're saying healthy or not healthy? According to WHO, I'm sure this is the name to be mentioned tomorrow many times. WHO's definition of being healthy is described here. Totally well-being physically, psychologically, and socially. It is different from just being disease-free or not physically weak. I'm sure there are better translation to be provided by different groups, but we have WHO chapter that Japan abide by. So, government looks at the healthy based upon WHO's view. So I thought this is the right definition to shed a light on in this context. So if you're not sick, does this mean you're healthy? It's not as simple as that. Even though you're not sick, even though you don't go see a doctor, maybe you could be in an unhealthy state. You are struggling about something, you cannot sleep well. So that's called unhealthy, maybe. Or you're so busy. You have no holidays, so you eat a lot, you gain weight. That could be another unhealthy state. But are they sick people? Are these people sick? Not necessarily so. Sometimes maybe yes. So being healthy, what does that mean really? That's something we would like to think together more deeply. So in the field of soundscape, one thing I can think about is what is a good sound environment? In other words, what is the sound environment where people can live well? And how can we create such a sound environment? Participation of citizens, interested parties. That's what I've been thinking of. And this has been taught before 311. From that perspective, I encountered the disaster in March 11th. And together in this session, I would like to together think about if we can say that the life in Fukushima being good. Before you leave, this is something that I want you to question yourself. You heard the sound first, and this is the very, very first sound. This is Kotori no Mori sound. Fukushima City set bird sanctuary, and this is operated based on the policy of conserving the environment of Satoyama. Kids used to come here, observe nature, cut off the tree, create certain things. And so there are some intervention by human beings to constantly maintain the wood or the sanctuary. And this Kotori no Mori was chosen as one of the conserving 100 soundscapes in Japan, hosted by Ministry of Environment. And this is personal feelings towards Kotori no Mori. I used to use this space for environmental education for children. It was a very good environment for kids, so I used to use this. And also, before 311, I used to take a walk in Kotori no Mori myself. And sometimes I study on the sound psychology as well. So I just wanted to capture certain sound as a material. I wanted to get some voice of birds. But people come in and go in the past. So capturing the bird voice only was very difficult before the earthquake or the disaster. So this is how I look at Kotori no Mori. I have my personal memory. I will run out of my time if I keep running the sound, but this is from a different perspective. I want you to take a listen. May 1st. Maybe this one's better? It's so noisy. Cicada just keep making sounds wherever you go. Birds are very strong, and in certain seasons, you hear the sound of frogs or cicada. So, from your own eyes, you don't really get to see impacts from the radiation by simply looking at birds and frogs and cicadas. Sometimes I talk with the operators in the woods, and as far as you hear or see, you don't really get to see a damage or big impacts from radiation. That's what they say, people operating in the woods and maintaining the woods. But basically, people silence is still there. No voice of people. You don't get to hear people's voice. Well, high school students, sometimes, because of their science activities, they come visit Kotori no Mori, and that's what the operators were saying. But elementary school, junior high school students, they don't get to come here too often after the accident. So, one thing I want you to remember is The Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. I'm sure many of you know about her. Rachel Carson wrote a book. She talked about the problem related to environment and people in the world are paying attention to. And she was the driver of that movement. And by human beings using a huge amount of chemicals, that no sound of birds, what's wrong with the situation? Well, this is a story she made. But that's how the story starts. So, being silent, birds being silent, nature being silent. Well, in this context, it's chemical, but this is just a symbolic. But what happened in Fukushima? Well, birds are singing, frogs are singing, cicadas are singing, but people are quiet.
It was humans who keep quiet, keep silent, fearing the radiation. This is the complete opposite situation from the silent spring that is happening in Fukushima. because decontamination is not the forest and woody areas are not a priority for decontamination. That is why. So living in Fukushima under that circumstances, do you think that is a healthy, a good way of living? Next place is Shinhama Park. It was very windy that day, so maybe you won't be able to hear so much the birds chirping, but birds are chirping. This is in 2012. March 3rd, 2012 was the day. Well, that was the first time that I encountered children post March 11th. And this is March 11th this year, 2015. Someone is saying no nuclear power. Children was copying the slogan of a demonstrations group, a group demonstrating. And so they were saying, no nukes, no nukes, repeating what the demonstrators were saying within their game of football. So that's what. But this park is right near the municipal hall, and there were 5 hotspots that were detected within the Fukushima city, and the first one of the 5 was in the Shinhama Park. So this is one of the success case of decontamination. The fact that it was near the municipal hall. I often personally went there to use it as a place for environmental education for children. And before March 11th, I used to live in Watari area in Fukushima. And it takes about 30 minutes walking from where I lived to this park. My child loved playing in this park as well, so I used to go there as well. And this one is Shinobuyama, the final spot. This is considered to be the environmental symbol of Fukushima City. Whenever Fukushima City government try to do something environmental, they try to do it here, usually. And it is a very known place for cherry blossom viewing, so a lot of people go there in April. And this is one of the 5 areas, the early hotspots that was detected as well. I personally had a strong connection with this place because the Fukushima government always chose this place as an environmental education arena. I used to go there as well. And I also used to go for cherry blossom viewing as well. Shinhama Park, already in 2012, had children returned because the decontamination went well and people thought that it's safe enough for children to play there. On the same day, I took this sound in Shinobuyama. No children's voice because the radiation dose is still high. However, what's very interesting in Shinobuyama is well, I wish I had taken the same sound in 2012. I didn't go there during the daytime in 2012. So this is the sound from 2013 that you just heard. The decontamination here didn't go so well, so the radiation dose is very high. But during the cherry blossom viewing period, even children come back here. What's happening is that they only do cherry blossom viewing once or twice during the year. It's a very limited amount of time. So even if the radiation dose is high, they would come here to view the beautiful cherry trees. This is, in a way, people have learned how to deal with the excess radiation on a day-to-day basis. Ordinarily, they wouldn't want to go there, but maybe on a special day, they decide to go. And in a way, it shows that people have learned the way to make decisions by themselves. So this is yet another question. Can we say that the situation where people choose and learn their ways of dealing with excess radiation is a healthy way of living? Do you want to live a life in which you need to learn how to deal with radiation and make your own decisions this way? And switching slightly to the topic of decontamination. This is in 2012, in very early on, decontamination was taking place in an elementary school. A large truck was used to remove soil. This one is in 2012. This is Watari area where I have been living before, even before the accident. The children have evacuated, wife has evacuated, so I was living by myself. Decontamination was taking place right in front of my house from my window. And finally, this is this year in January. The decontamination of the Fukushima University itself took place finally this year in January. Decontamination started already in the summer of 2011 in a public manner in places, priority areas. And even before that, on a personal level or in a smaller scale, certain groups undertook decontamination even during the May Golden Week holiday period. But for these personal decontamination, the small but was already in the spring of 2011, and even now decontaminations are taking place. Even in the soundscape that you've heard, there were some sounds of decontamination even this year, and in that sense, there's a large-scale decontamination that is going on today, just like 4 years ago. What they do is they remove the contaminated soil, they remove contaminated grass, and they use high pressure water pipe to remove the contaminated elements. The method remains the same. Now, decontamination is considered to be helping the health of people. But can we say that the life in which we keep hearing the noises of decontamination on a daily basis is healthy? Would you want to live in an environment where you hear such noises of decontamination on a daily basis, where this becomes a mundane element of life? Finally, this is a temporary storage issue. This was taken near my university. This is the temporary storage area where these decontaminated soils were placed in a temporary manner near the university. The second sound. This was in Shinobuyama. Again, this was where temporary storing area was created. And finally, this is in Fukushima University. Perhaps it might be easier to see this visually than in an audible manner, but what they're doing is they're cutting a part of the forest of Fukushima University's premise. Do you know what this cry is about? These are wild birds people who like birds or bird watching would notice this sound. This is a bird called sashiba, a type of eagle.
In the Red Data book, they're one of the extinct species, according to the Ministry of Environment. And the fact that we can clearly hear their voice, thanks to the temporary storage, the huge amount of trees being cut. And if you go to the edge, and when you look up, you see the nest. That's how far this tree being cut. For bird experts, well, because of the expert professor told some operators to keep that nest, they were okay. But if people who didn't know about that, they might have just cut it off. So at the end of the day, if you choose the space that's minimal impact to human beings, that means from a bird's eyes, from a wild bird's eyes, or from other living creatures' eyes, their loveliness being destroyed. So the impacts to these living creatures, under the name of protecting people's lives, now we are destroying the living lives, the environment of the nature. We don't know yet whether these living creatures being impacted by the radiation. But before knowing that, while experts are trying to find that out, for the sake of protecting human beings' lives, they are destroying the living conditions of these creatures. So there's a huge impact being imposed to the environment. Again, the question, is this good for human beings? Is this called healthy for us, human beings? Well, in Fukushima, after the nuclear accident, we can say that from a neuro perspective, again, it's about Mako Oshidori's statistical discussion, but as she pointed out, I'm sure some people still deny the fact that there are some impacts on people's health. So maybe in a narrow perspective, people's health being maintained after the nuclear accident, maybe. But how about the question of, can we say that these people live there in physically, psychologically, socially good condition? Are we really fulfilling those conditions? Or people in the room, I want to ask you a question. Do you want to live in such environment, such circumstances? So this is my last statement, last question to you. So how can we achieve the genuine sense of the healthy state, just like WHO defines in Fukushima? Please think about it. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.